Fired. Mr. Becerra.
Mr. Werfel, thank you very much for being with us, and look forward to having you come back. I think you've mentioned that everything you've stated in your reports and everything that the IRS has done so far to investigate this matter is not yet complete. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
So when you say at this point you have found no evidence of wrongdoing, it's as of this point.
Yes, that's the question we're getting raised, and I feel compelled to give the most honest answer I can, which is exactly the point. More analysis is needed, but at this point in time, if you're asking me, have we found evidence of intentional wrongdoing, we have not, and I understand the confusion around the word intentional because these actions still happen. I tried to explain it's the difference in between whether someone knows they're actually doing something wrong or it's a question of a management incompetence or neglect of duty. We certainly have evidence of neglect of duty. What we don't have evidence yet of is that someone knowingly did something wrong based on political animus or criminal intent. That evidence just hasn't materialized yet.
And you use, I think, the operative words, the evidence. So to date, there is no evidence of wrongdoing.
There's no evidence of intentional wrongdoing. There's evidence of managerial wrongdoing.
And to date, there is no evidence linking anything that occurred at the IRS to the White House.
That's correct. Okay.
And as of today, you are still in the process of investigating.
Yes, there's more people to talk to, and in many cases under oath, and there's more documents to review.
And as I think you've tried to make clear, but been interrupted as you try to provide the answer, the reason you haven't spoken to some of the folks that are principal to this investigation is because others have the principal responsibility to do the investigation.
I have two thoughts to this question because it keeps coming up. One is the rule of law, the legal process prohibits me from talking to these employees, the Justice Department, the Inspector General, the appropriate officials. Secondly, even if there was no constraint, we also have professional investigators on the scene that are very skilled in talking to witnesses, and ultimately we might make a decision that those individuals are the ones who should be interviewing the witnesses and providing that information to me.
Well, we want you to be able to continue with that investigation the right way. And we hope that you're able to come back and answer the questions that you can, given the work that you are doing and the jurisdiction you have to provide the answers. But I'd say at this stage, what we're hearing from you, in fact, I think what we heard from Mr. George, the Inspector General, is that there's an investigation that's ongoing. In fact, the chairman of the committee, in his opening statements, said that we are still in the early stages of this investigation, that the Inspector General is doing a more thorough investigation. Mr. Brady, my colleague on the Republican side, said, we're not going to stop till we learn the whole truth. So we still need to find out the facts. At this stage, we have an investigation ongoing. It's a half-baked investigation. And to reach any conclusions would mean we've reached half-baked conclusions. And so whether it's your conclusion or my Republican colleague's conclusion, for anyone to make accusations at this stage, it's with only part of the information.
And there comes the distinction. To answer questions, this is exactly how it happened, is not a question that we can answer yet. But I think we can answer, is there any evidence that any of this has materialized? That's a question we can answer because we're in process, and I can comment on whether the evidence has materialized in any way.
So far, what the evidence tells you is what you're responding to, and we appreciate that. I would say, as much as I would like to have you back, I hope every one of my colleagues on this panel would agree that we have to have Inspector General George back because he has, as Ricky Ricardo would tell Lucille Ball, he has some explaining to do. There is a lot that he has not yet answered. In fact, there are some things that he answered that may not have been forthcoming. I'd like to finish with one last point. Now, this whole investigation centers around the issue of 501c4 organizations. Now, as you know, 501c4 organizations are social welfare organizations. Under the law, 501c4 applies to organizations that are not organized for profit, but operated exclusively for the promotion of social welfare. I'm not sure if you're aware, Mr. Werfel, but those same 501c4 social welfare organizations spent $256 million on political expenditures in 2012. Did you know that that's more money spent by these social welfare organizations, nonprofits, than the two political parties combined, which spent $255 million. So that's the crux of the problem here, is that we have so-called social welfare organizations that spend more money than the two political parties combined. And so when IRS is concerned that there may be some organizations that are trying to game the system at taxpayer expense, that's why we have to have these investigations. So we hope to have you back. I yield the balance of my time.
Mr. Roscoe.